I'm Jen Hunt from SMC Consulting, and I wanted to bring to you some new ideas about how you might group your students for math. This is a topic we've spoken about all over the Northwest in PDs and workshops to help teachers group their students. But some teachers have come to us with some issues, and we think we have solved the problems. Here are the benefits that you might face if you have small groups in math. The teacher station can be differentiated for best learning. This is the reason you do small groups, so that every learner can get exactly what they need from math every day. This is the most powerful part. Another benefit is that students get practice every day in every station at high rigor. They have the independent practice station where they're working on today's content. They have the problem-solving station where they're turning words into numbers and numbers into words. And they have the fact and number fluency station, so they can get that very important practice. Another benefit is that their attention doesn't need to sustain for a whole hour as the teacher talks at them. Instead, they are engaged in their activities. And you can use a mix of games, activities, digital, and paper pencil for them to learn the content. However, some of the concerns that have come up are non-readers, especially for our K-3 friends. If non-readers are working independently with other non-readers, it makes it very difficult for them to do some of the tasks. Also, low groups could tend to have increased behaviors. I've had a number of teachers come to me and say, I can't put all my low kiddos together because those are the kiddos who will take each other off task. And finally, the low groups are not having exposure to the language and thought processes that exist at higher groups. This is a big deal. Students learn from other students, and we want all students exposed to each other. Well, I have seen some teachers use small groups with a certain technique that allows you to homogeneously meet with your leveled groups, but to have the students heterogeneously work independently. Here's what it would look like. You'll see that there are 4 stations here for the students to visit. At the bottom, you'll have the teacher station, where they learn today's content. This is where you as the teacher differentiate. On the left side, you'll see a fluency station. At the top, you'll notice independent practice. And on the right side, a problem-solving station. You'll also notice that I have 4 lists of students. These are leveled. The red is the highest group. They are above grade level. The green is the medium group. They are working at grade level, as is the blue group, another at grade level group, and the purple group, who are the low group. They're working below grade level. Yes, you will notice there are 16 students in this class. Obviously, this is pretend and for demonstration purposes only. You'll also notice that the names of the students in the group correspond with the color. That's also just to help us go through this visualization. In addition to the students being assigned a color, they've also been assigned a shape. So Rita knows that she is in the red group and she's a circle. Instead of just having to remember one thing, she now has to remember 2, and I think students are capable of this. Rita knows that she's red and a circle. Every student has been assigned a shape because that is their group. The red group has some circles, triangles, and squares in it. But you'll notice that the circle group is spread out, as I called it, the heterogeneous group. They're spread out among all the levels of students. So when the red group meets together at independent practice, there are high and medium and low students at that group. The triangles are going to meet together at problem solving. The squares are going to meet together at fluency. You'll notice there is a color group that hasn't been distributed yet into one of the stations. Those are the lowest students, and they always meet with the teacher first. So in the first group, the teacher is meeting with Pepe, Petra, Percy, and Paula. Those students do belong to shape groups. As you can see here, they do belong to squares, circles, and triangles. That's because, again, every student has a shape and a color. But for us to see what is actually happening in the classroom at that moment, the teacher is meeting with the purple group. They have been pulled from their shape groups. Then there's a transition, and you'll notice that the squares are moving from fluency to independent practice. That the circles are moving from independent practice to problem solving, and that the triangles are moving from problem solving to fact fluency. Percy and Pepe are triangles, so now is when they rejoin their triangle group at fact fluency. Petra's a circle, she'll rejoin her group at problem solving. And Paula's a square, so she'll rejoin her group at independent practice. Now we're in our second groupings. You'll notice that Ralph and Rocky, who are squares and started at fluency, are now at independent practice. And the blue group has been pulled to work with the teacher. Same direction for transition. Now the squares are moving to problem solving, the circles are moving to fact fluency, and the triangles are moving to independent practice. And the blue will rejoin their shape groups while the teacher calls the green students. The teacher meets with this third grouping, the green students, as everyone else works independently. Now, it's time for the next transition. We have been practicing this transition, so we know that we are just going to keep moving clockwise around the room. But this one's a little bit different. Think about Bryce, for instance. Bryce is a square, and the squares started at fluency. So Bryce cannot transition over to fluency now. Bryce was with the teacher when it was time to go to independent practice. So now Bryce is going to independent practice. We don't follow the arrows this time. Instead, the teacher says, go where you haven't been. And that's the instruction. The students are able to look around the room and know which station they have not been to yet. So Bryce will go to independent practice. The red group is now meeting with the teacher, and everyone else is in the group that they haven't been to yet. Let's take a look at that again, just to help make it clear. Let's follow Ralph this time. Ralph is a square. Ralph always travels with the squares, Greta, Rocky, Bryce, and Paula. Ralph, in the second grouping, moves to independent practice with Greta, Rocky, and Paula. In the third grouping, Ralph moves with the squares, Bryce, Rocky, and Paula. And in the fourth grouping, Ralph meets with the teacher. Ralph has just moved around the room in a circle, clockwise, and that just happens to be because he's the red group. So let's look at it once more, this time following Greta. Greta is a square. Greta is always in the square group with Ralph, Rocky, Bryce, and Paula. In the second grouping, Greta is with Ralph and Rocky and Paula at independent practice. But now, the teacher is going to call Greta over, so Greta misses problem solving with her group, Ralph, Rocky, Bryce, and Paula. So in the fourth grouping, Greta returns to problem solving, the station she missed. Let's look at it one last time. This time let's follow Brittany. Brittany is a circle. Brittany travels with the circles Baylor, Glinda, Rita, and Petra. Brittany in the first grouping is at independent practice. The teacher calls her in the second grouping, so she doesn't travel to problem solving with Rita, Glinda, and Petra. But she'll rejoin them at the third grouping at fluency. There she's rejoined Rita, Baylor, and Petra. But she missed a station. So in the fourth grouping, she'll go to problem solving, the one that she missed. Teachers sometimes see this and think this is actually harder than it is. The only thing the students need to know is that you always stick with your shape group unless I call you over, or if it's the last station, in which case you just go to the place you haven't been. Now, behind the scenes, every student has a path that they follow, and it happens to be the same exact path every day. Rita always starts at independent practice, then problem solving, fluency, then the teacher station. That's Rita's path every day. It's different than Rosie's path, who starts at problem solving, goes to fluency, then independent practice, then the teacher station. But everybody in the red group always meets with the teacher last. In the green group, everyone has a different path that they follow, but it's their same path every day, and the third is always the teacher station. And the same is true with the blue and the purple. They each follow their own path every day. It's the same path every day, though it's different than the people in their color group, but they each meet with the teacher, the blue group second, and the purple group first. To make this happen, it's not as hard as it may seem. The teacher assesses students and groups them in colors according to levels. Then, the teacher creates shape groupings with some of each color. Here's the benefit. You can consider behaviors here. So if there are two students who should not ever be in a group together, you can make that happen, even if they're working at the same level. The only time that they'll be in the group together is in front of you at the teacher station. And finally, something that teachers have done to help this work better is they've designated a shape carrier. This person carries the sign around from grouping to group so that when students are rejoining their shape group from the teacher station, they just look for the shape. The students always follow their shape group unless the teacher calls them over, or if it's the last station, and then you go to what you missed. Here are some frequently asked questions teachers have about this and small grouping in general. Do I need to meet with my low kids every day? Absolutely. Your low kids need you face-to-face every day. Do I have to use shapes and colors as my groups? No. Shapes and colors are just what I use today to help you see and understand. I do recommend that you might try shapes and colors first for a few weeks until you get the hang of exactly how movement is happening. And then if you'd like, you could move to whatever content is happening in your classroom. Perhaps mountains you're studying, regions, or tribes. Should I post the color groups and the kids' shapes? Yes. Kids need to be able to look up on the wall and see, my name is Rita, I'm in the red group, and I'm a circle. It needs to be very clear. Should my groups all be the same length of time? No. At the teacher station, you're going to meet with your lowest kids the longest, within reason. You might meet with them for 20 minutes, and then you might meet with your green group for 15 minutes, your blue group for 12 minutes, and then you might give your highest group the remainder of the time. Should I prepare a what to do when you're done at each station? Yes and no. Absolutely, students need to know what to do when they're done. Assume that students will finish the activity that you've given them, and then have something else for them to do. This might be different at every station. It might be a follow-up activity, it might be an extension, but it also might be when you are finished with your activity, you can choose from the math bookshelf, or you can choose from the math apps. So yes, you should prepare, but it might not be different at every station. That will be up to you. Should I anticipate that there will be misbehaviors and have something ready for that scenario? Absolutely. Not only will there be misbehaviors at individual stations, so you might need to call one or two students away from their station and say in a very flat affect, "Oh, bummer, stations didn't work for you today. We'll try again tomorrow." And have them sit next to you and do something very, very boring. But also anticipate that there might be misbehaviors with an entire station. For example, I've been in many classrooms where bump is so exciting that students begin to throw pieces on the floor or take each other's pieces. At that point, the teacher needs to shut it down. That whole game needs to be put away until students are ready to play with responsibility. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer those for you. You can email me, follow me on Twitter, find this video and more on our YouTube channel, and check out our website at ccssmathactivities.com. Thank you for joining me today.